day long about the issues that matter most. Our hosts for the day include Jill Monroe, Adrian Shropshire, Dr. Melina Abdullah, Angela Reddick Wright, Raquel Graham, Angelique Francis, Tasha Thomas, Dr. Shalonda Crawford, Dion Raymond, and a couple of special guest hosts for the day that we'll be announcing soon. This is Women's History Month, and we're not just celebrating it, we're amplifying it. Join us Friday, March 27th on KBLA Talk 1580, where women take over all day, all night. Stay tuned to KBLA Talk 1580 and all of our socials for the rundown. You don't want to miss a single word. And happy Women's History Month from all of us at KBLA Talk 1580.
So my ladies,
I'll show you how to work that.
Go.
We gon' get it right. We gon' get it right. We gon' get it right. We gon' get it right.
Protests and anthems, yes, we chanting. A movement of people, it's like we dancing to the ministry of. It's the energy of, in memory of them that we love. The trinity of the people, the peace, the power, the truth. We speak the powers even louder. We can say it blacker, we can say it prouder. A woman vice president that went to Howard. Now we talk helping black businesses, and our differences is magnificent. Bringing light to the point where the prisons is. I was told good life is where forgiveness lives. The ascension is to leave what's left behind and feed the seeds with deeds that bless the mind, caress the mind, and question justify. With you and God in time, my best align.
Shine, flies, no time to waste while it's passing you by. Shine, flies, be patient, cause good things happen in time. We gon' get it right, we gon' get it right, we gon' get it right.
You are listening to and streaming Your Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, reporting for duty. I'm in touch, and so you be in touch. Be sure to follow me on all the social media platforms at Dr. Nii-Quartelai. As you know, just type in Dr. Nii-Q, and there I am, fresh for you to follow. Also, if you haven't already, download the KBLA app to listen to us live or on demand, or just tell Alexa to play KBLA Talk 1580. And there we are for your listening pleasure. Also, subscribe to the KBLA YouTube channel, because that way you don't just get to hear me, you get to see me. You get to see our incredible guests that are in, from everywhere. And so let me just say, just got back on Saturday night from a whirlwind experience in Chicago, paying my respects to Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr. I had a chance to join Tavis Smiley and Dr. Cornel West and so many folks from across the country who descended upon Chicago to lift up our now dearly departed ancestor, Jesse Jackson. I'll be sharing some reflections on that a little bit later in the show, but now it's time for your national news roundup. It's time for you to decide the good, bad, and ugly headlines of the day. And kicking us off, Politico is reporting we've got to pay attention. GOP anxiety is spiking over rising energy prices. That's right. The economic fallout from President Trump's decision to go to war with Iran is imperiling the GOP's legislative sales pitch ahead of the midterms. With energy prices spiking, threatening at least some of the pocketbook gains Americans are seeing from the sweeping tax cuts Republicans enacted last year. Now, analysts with the Wall Street Advisory and investment firm Evercore ISI, they estimated just today that the impact on household costs attributable to the current crisis could erase the tax benefits from the so-called Big Beautiful Bill for at least the bottom 30% of Americans, even if oil prices come off of their $100 plus per barrel highs. Now, some top Republicans acknowledge rising energy prices are a cause for political concern, but the impact of higher gas prices, it's hidden just as House Republicans gather for their annual policy retreat at Trump's resort in Florida. The evidence could be seen just outside the gates, where regular gas was retailing at multiple stations for $3.59 per gallon, up about 70 cents from the Miami area average on January 1st. It's according to the folks over at gasbuddy.com. And so, look, the president doesn't have to look any further than beyond the gates of where this Republican retreat is being held to see that gas prices are being impacted quick, fast, in a hurry. And even as they go up, there are no guarantees they're going to go down. There's no guarantees they're going to go down as far as they went up or as fast as they went up. And so lots of folks paying extra close attention to this. I think I saw earlier today the CEO of United Airlines saying that they expect the cost of jet fuel to go up. You know what that means? It means if you're planning to get plane tickets to go see your special someone graduate in May or June, or if you're planning that vacation this summer, if you don't have your tickets already, they're only going to get more expensive as the cost of oil, the cost of gasoline and jet fuel get more expensive. And so be sure to keep an eye on that. I know we will. Moving along, NBC News reporting that Trump says that he won't sign any bills until Save America Act passes. That's the legislation that is facing an uphill battle in the Senate as we speak. President Trump said just this past Sunday that he will not sign any bills until the Save America Act is passed, adding that a watered-down version of the act would not do. The legislation, which would overhaul voting laws and require proof of citizenship nationwide to register to vote, faces an uphill battle in the Senate. Non-citizen voting is illegal, and guess what? It's uncommon. It's worth noting that Trump brought up the SAVE Act in a phone call with NBC News last week, saying, quotes, he's not happy it's not moving, and adding that he has expressed that to everyone. He went on to say, I would close government over it. To me, that's a core belief. The House sent the bill to the Senate last month, but Trump said in a social media post just this past Sunday that he also wanted to see provisions about men and women's sports and ending gender reassignment surgery for children, which are not in the House-approved bill. The government faces a partial shutdown over funding for the Department of Homeland Security, and Trump's announcement means that even if Congress were to reach a deal, he might refuse to sign it. However, bills automatically become law if the president does not sign them within 10 days of their passing. And so we're going to keep an eye on this. This SAVE Act, if it were to pass, would definitely throw a monkey wrench in our elections, a monkey wrench that would be litigated in the courts like we haven't seen before because the stakes are so high. And so we are definitely keeping our eye on any movement related to the SAVE Act. Finally, remember last week we had talked about the company Anthropic, who was at odds with the Pentagon over a specific request made by the Pentagon that was at odds with their values. Well, now Anthropic is suing the Trump administration over what they call a supply chain risk label. That's right. Anthropic filed 2 federal lawsuits today against the Trump administration, alleging that Pentagon officials illegally retaliated against the company for its position on artificial intelligence safety. Defense Department officials last week, they designated Anthropic a supply chain risk, citing national security concerns. It followed CEO Dario Amodi's announcement that he would not allow the company's Claude AI model to be used for autonomous weapons or to surveil on American citizens. The lawsuit says that the administration's decision to place the firm on what is effectively a blacklist that blocks Pentagon suppliers from using Claude is an attempt to punish the company over its AI guardrails. We need to pay attention to this because if Anthropic is being published today for trying to enforce their AI guardrails, right, then what's to say that the Defense Department or the Trump administration might do the same thing to Google or Microsoft or, any of the tech companies, Meta, take your pick. It's a real dangerous precedent. And I really think, as a non-lawyer speaking, Anthropic had to do something. Anthropic had to make this move in court. They had to file this lawsuit because if the administration is able to get away with this, imagine what this could mean for the whole industry. Imagine what this could mean for other industries, for so many other suppliers that do business with the federal government. Imagine if you decided that no, Mr. President, no, Mr. Secretary, no, federal government, we're not going to do that because that's at odds with our values. That actually makes consumers less safe. That violates consumers' civil rights and civil liberties as we see it, right? And if the president, the secretary, the federal government says, well, that's fine, we're just going to label you as a supplier risk and not do business with you as a result of that, that's what's happening in America today. When we come forward, we're going to separate a lot more fact from the fiction. We'll be joined with Alan Orr, our resident immigration law expert. The GOP, there's a GOP lawmaker that's saying that Muslims don't belong in the U.S. and attempted suicides, fights, pain, a lot of 911 calls reveal some misery at an ICE detention facility, one of the largest facilities. We're going to ask our resident expert what more can be done in that situation. You're listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. More when we come forward.
You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Are you drowning in IRS tax debt? Angela was. She called Civic Tax Relief and saved over $80,000. Felicia was having health problems, got behind on her taxes, interest and penalties were adding up. She called Civic Tax Relief and saved over $15,000. Civic Tax Relief is a professional tax negotiation firm that can protect you from the IRS. If you're getting collection letters, call Civic Tax Relief for a free consultation. They will go to work helping you discover all the relief programs you may qualify for free. James owed the IRS $37,000. Civic Tax Relief represented him against the IRS, and by the time everything was completed, he did not owe the IRS anything. If you are in trouble with the IRS, call Civic Tax Relief for your free consultation now. 800-200-2257. 800-200-2257. Get a free consultation and real tax relief. Call 800-200-2257. 800-200-2257.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. At the heart of the Al Wooten Center's mission for good citizenship and academic excellence is a desire to ensure that every student avoids the kind of lifestyle and overcomes the kinds of challenges that led to the murder of Al Wooten Jr. In 1990, founder Myrtle Faye Rumpf opened the center in honor of her son's life. In 2026, they are serving more than 300 students in grades 3 through 12 annually online and on site at their youth center and other sites in the South LA area. The Al Wooten Jr. Youth Center takes a neighborhood approach to the revitalization and empowerment of a community in crisis. The Wooten Center provides free after-school and summer programs to help students in grades 3 through 12 attain grade-level proficiency and promotion, high school graduation, and college and career access and success. The Al Wooten Center focuses on academics, STEM, the arts, and so much more. Join them for an enriching experience that sparks creativity and nurtures young minds. Tap in at wootencenter.org. That's wootencenter.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
All the women who independent, throw your hands up,
This March, we're turning up the volume on the women who changed everything. KBLA Talk 1580 is proud to celebrate Women's History Month, honoring the trailblazers, truth tellers, and game changers who shaped our world, our culture, and our community. From the freedom fighters to the firsts, from the boardroom to the front lines, from the unsung to the unforgettable, all month long, we're celebrating the stories, the voices, and the conversations that remind us that women, Black women, have always led the way. Don't miss a moment. This is our moment. This is our story. Stay tuned to KBLA Talk 1580, Los Angeles' home for the conversations that matter.
I'm your girl, you're my girl, we're your girls. Won't you know that we love you?
Hit me! National news, the consequence. Informed opinion. And analysis beyond the headlines. You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, and he is Alan Orr Esquire. He's the founder of Orr Immigration Law. He is also our resident immigration lawyer here on A More Perfect Union, always helping us to separate the fact from the fiction. Welcome back, Alan.
Hello, happy to be here. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday to you, and thank you for the reminder. For those who are streaming, you can see that Alan is wearing a vote shirt, right? And he is reminding us, not just on election day, but every day, right? That we got to do this. We got to vote.
Yep, and we have some general elections coming up in Georgia, Florida tomorrow. Also in Mississippi, there's the runoff for the primary, in which Bernie Thompson is up against a new newcomer who's trying to replace him. So it's important to know for the next couple of Tuesdays, voting will happen in jurisdictions, and if you're able to vote, you should vote.
That's right. Benny Thompson, someone who served with honor in terms of leading the January 6th subcommittee, and someone who's been a very strong voice in the Congressional Black Caucus. No stranger to this show, no stranger to KBLA. But so many folks are running. So do your homework, and show up and vote. Alan, speaking of doing our homework, if we really did our homework, we would find that this moment that we're living in feels all too familiar. USA Today reporting that GOP lawmaker says that Muslims don't belong in the U.S. And they are drawing some harsh criticism. A Republican lawmaker from Tennessee made the comments on social media, quickly condemning and was quickly condemned as Islamophobic after two men were accused of trying to ignite homemade bombs in New York City. And what authorities said was well investigated as an act of ISIS-inspired terrorism. It's not so long ago that we saw President Trump in his first term institute a Muslim ban, or at least attempt to, in the United States. Might we see the sequel anytime soon?
So we have seen a version of the sequel of the bans already that we knew we couldn't do it by religion. So that does exist. The ban already, as we spoke about before, 70% of Africa has somewhat of a ban with regards to getting visas. A lot of discretionary visas are being denied. There's a reopening of tons of cases specific to religion and places of locations that we sort of seen. And even when you saw the first wave of legal immigrants being caught up and removed, it was all students who were of a Muslim faith. So we've already sort of seen that enactment happening in some ways. Let's sort of separate a little bit of who we're talking about. We're talking about Andy Oaks from Tennessee, right? And so Tennessee's sort of state politics are a little bit far from the core of what regular America is. He is a representative that was under investigation in 2004. And that investigation was dropped pursuant to the election of this president for his campaign financing and other issues. So he's not exactly the most noble of all candidates in his background to sort of speak about these things, but he was sort of speaking more generally about this American experiment, meaning can all religions live here together? Can all people sort of exist? And he was saying we can't coexist in this world when we have factually already did that for 250 years. So it seems a little bit odd and strange to me for him to make that assertion. So the problems that exist with the Muslim, with this government's position on Muslims individuals, we see it implemented every day. So that already exists. Andy is just beating the drum for his own reelection and his place in this pool of just hate and getting a little bit of favor from the White House, because he's always raising his hand, see me, see what I'm doing, even in the type of bills that he introduces within Tennessee. And that's why it's important that when there's an opportunity that's coming up shortly to vote him out, that we vote him out.
And that's right. We got to do that. I mean, it's also worth noting that he is an ultra-conservative member of the Freedom Caucus in the House of Representatives. For folks who are a little less familiar, you hear Freedom Caucus. If you don't pay close attention to this, you think, okay, well, they can't be that bad, right? Give us a sense of the kind of politics that are considered fair and pretty representative of the Freedom Caucus's position in the House.
Right. I sort of feel like they're the Tea Party Murphed a little bit. An example, that sort of extreme sort of, if it has freedom or a flag on it, then it doesn't stand for any of those things. So it's a little bit of a soft white nationalism sort of flavor to what goes on, and a very much in favor of the billionaire class. So those sort of things that we've seen implemented over and over again, specifically in Tennessee politics. I mean, in Tennessee, you can see it over and over again, and taking away the votes from certain places. How we see them treat Memphis and Nashville, was sort of replacing them with saying, I know what's best for you, except when you say you know what's best for me.
That's about right. That feels about right. Let me tell you something that isn't right. It is this story, as reported by the AP and the LA Times, on these attempted suicides and fights and all these sort of 911 calls are revealing this misery at one of ICE's largest detention facilities. That is the Camp East, Montana facility in Texas. Again, it's the nation's largest ICE detention facility. And I read the story and it stopped me cold because it was a reminder of the conditions inside this facility. And Alan, I got to ask you, how is it that the conditions inside this ICE detention facility don't amount to cruel and unusual punishment?
So, God, this is a complex question that I'm glad that you asked me, because I think it's important to sort of walk through this. Immigration and the violation of immigration is not a crime under the law. It is a civil act, which is punishable by a fine, not by imprisonment. And so therefore the courts have ruled that the protections of the Constitution against cruel and unusual punishment does not apply to immigration detention, because it is not punishment in a sense, right? They're not supposed to be punishing people. They're just supposed to be removing people. So because immigration is a civil act, not a criminal act, the courts have found that we can apply those rulings to the situation, right? If we could, we would shut them all down. So let's walk back from this a little bit and sort of say, in light of what we've known about Secretary Noem and her hearing and how these contracts were given out, what's going on here? And we've seen that a lot of people receive contracts that they should not have received contracts for. And that's what's happening to a lot of these detention facilities, is people that have never run these detention facilities have not have the experience to sort of lead them in that direction. So that's one. People running it don't know what they're doing, costing us millions of dollars. Mostly subcontractors, all private prisons that have made record profit in the last year. So you do with that what you will. Up under that is there's an ombudsman for this detention facilities in Washington, D.C., specifically for detention, separate from UCIS. So separate from the benefits, there's a separate ombudsman whose total job is looking over the detention of immigrants. He testified before Congress, and he is not aware of the act and the standards that were implemented to him from Congress. So therefore, the person who's overseeing all of these ICE detention facilities is not aware of the standards given to him by Congress to administer to these facilities. So you have cronies who have been appointed to jobs. I'm sure he's making a ton of money, not doing anything, no oversight, and it's about the money. Luckily for us, these people are able to call 911. Think about what would happen if they don't call 911 to make these records. When they don't make these records, you have things like, oh, they committed suicide or someone just killed themselves. Well, that doesn't make sense when for all of this time in immigration detention, we have never had this number of suicides. Within this year already, because it's hard for me to keep up, there have either been 11 or 13 deaths in immigrant detention centers right now. And some of them we're just finding about that happened in January. So this level of cruelty is problematic. And that's why the president of Mexico is now looking at this administration to say, wait a minute, what are you doing to my citizens in your detention facilities when you should be removing them? And I'm very happy that this is starting to happen because more countries need to stand up and say, wait a minute, you're the United States, you have standards, these individuals have passports from my country, what are you doing to them? Because this should not be criminal. And I'm glad that that's a move that's happening, and I hope other countries will follow behind.
It's worth noting that the detainees describe a camp where the average of about 3,000 people have lived per day in loud and unsanitary quarters, diseases spreading easily. They say sleep is a luxury there. The center will be closed to visitors until at least March 19th because of a measles outbreak. That's according to U.S. Representative Veronica Escobar from Texas. Detainees are struggling to obtain medication and health care. There's concerns around the amount of weight that they're losing because of a lack of food, and they're living in fear of private security guards known to use force to put down disturbances. I mean, I could go on and on and on about what the Associated Press have found in their reporting, but I think everyone gets the gist here that people are not being treated with dignity, and that these people, and also keep in mind that not all of these folks are considered illegal citizens, right? Now, far from the worst of the worst that Trump vowed to deport, the data from ICE shows that 80% at the camp had no criminal record and were instead caught up in this dragnet operation. And so when we come forward, we'll continue to unpack some of the latest headlines trending related to immigration. You're listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
The audience is listening. Thought-provoking, eye-opening, heart-rendering. This is where authentic voices meet powerful discussions on culture, community, and change. This is where Black voices matter. He's breaking boundaries, amplifying diverse perspectives, and tackling the issues that matter most to you. You're inside A More Perfect Union with Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Morgan Wood with BIN News Now. Former Maryland State Police Major Neil Franklin says a Baltimore County officer escalated the encounter that led to Samuel Brown's death.
Get in your car. Get in your car, sir.
I clad.
Get in your car, sir.
I clad on my.
Get in your car, sir. Get in your car.
He says body camera footage shows Officer Derek Hadel ignored de-escalation, striking Brown after a brief struggle. Brown fell, hit his head, and died on February 27th. Brown's family is calling for accountability as the Maryland Attorney General investigates. Prices at the gas pump are rising as the U.S. continues military operations in Iran. AAA reports the national average for a gallon of regular gas today is $3.47. And a Florida woman is facing suspicion of attempted murder charges after opening fire on singer Rihanna's home in the Los Angeles area. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
City Terrace, tough on the 10 eastbound leaving City Terrace Drive. Delays and stretches all the way to Azusa. There's a couple crashes reported coming up on the 605 freeway, and they're clearing everything to the shoulder. It's also a tough drive as you make your way through Anaheim, eastbound side of the 91. Delays from the 57 freeway to Green River. Corona 15 southbound loading up at the 91 all the way to Temescal Canyon Road. And you're slowing down on the 405. This is northbound out of Irvine. Delays from Irvine Center Drive on the breaks and stretches all the way to Brookhurst and Fountain Valley.
Head to Waba Grill weekdays after 3 p.m. for their $5 happy hour and try their new chili crisp dumplings. Bold, crunchy, and toss in a fiery crisp paired with a premium Waba beverage drink like their authentic Thai tea. Get both for just $5 only at Waba Grill. It's for you.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Lakers win over New York Sunday, moved them into a tie for fifth place with Denver in the Western Conference. The Lakers have 18 games remaining
remaining in the regular season to stay among the top 6. Teams finishing 7 through 10 have to go through the play-in round to make the playoffs. Next game for the Lakers is Tuesday night at home against Minnesota. Since moving to the Big Ten Conference 2 years ago, the UCLA women's basketball team is 34-2. UCLA has won 24 straight games against Big Ten opponents. They haven't lost a conference game since USC beat them on March 1st, 2025. UCLA, the number 2 team in the country, is 31-1. After beating Iowa Sunday to win the Big Ten tournament, the Bruins are assured of getting one of the 4 number 1 seeds in the NCAA tournament. The brackets will be announced next Sunday. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Warning, evacuation in progress. Leave the building.
It's a total takeover. On Friday, March 27th, KBLA Top 1580 belongs to the women.
Are you ready?
All day long, from 6 in the morning to midnight, the mic belongs to powerful, accomplished women, and we are not letting go. Nothing but the voices of women who inspire, challenge, and move us forward. It's the women of KBLA Talk 1580, sun up to sundown. I'm Dominique DePrima, and I'll anchor the day with a 3-hour live panel from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. on the state of Black women in LA, followed by women talking to women all day long about the issues that matter most. Our hosts for the day include Jill Monroe, Adrian Shropshire, Dr. Melina Abdullah, Angela Reddick Wright, Raquel Graham, Angelique Francis, Tasha Thomas, Dr. Shalonda Crawford, Dion Raymond, and a couple of special guest hosts for the day that we'll be announcing soon. This is Women's History Month, and we're not just celebrating it, we're amplifying it. Join us Friday, March 27th on KBLA Talk 1580, where women take over all day, all night. Stay tuned to KBLA Talk 1580 and all of our socials for the rundown. You don't want to miss a single word. And happy Women's History Month from all of us at KBLA Talk 1580.
So my ladies, I'll show you how to work that. Go.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. The Michael's Daughter Foundation is dedicated to inspiring youth and resilience through storytelling, arts, filmmaking, and enrichment programs for youth and families in under-resourced communities and system-impacted individuals. The Michael's Daughter Foundation is a 501c3 nonprofit providing free and low-cost arts programs to youth and families from under-resourced communities, both system-impacted youth and those affected by the incarceration of a loved one. 1 in 43 children in America have a parent incarcerated. 70% of those children are expected to end up in prison. Through filmmaking, animation, theater, and writing, they help young people express themselves, build confidence, and imagine new possibilities. Beyond the arts, they offer financial literacy workshops, emergency support, and scholarships. Because thriving takes more than talent, it takes access. To learn more about the impact of Michael Daughters Foundation and how you can be a part of the movement, please visit their website, michaelsdaughterfoundation.com. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Now back to building a more perfect union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey. I'm really delighted to be in conversation with Alan Orr, Esquire, founder of Orr Immigration Law. And today, a sitting billboard reminding us of the power of our vote, particularly if you're in places like Mississippi. Did you say Tennessee? Where else today? Can't hear you, Alan.
Sorry about that. Sorry. Florida, state elections. Georgia, state elections. Georgia, runoff seat for Marjorie Taylor Greene's seat. Mississippi, primaries. And one other place it escapes my mind right now. But Ballotpedia or election protection will help you make sure that you find when your elections are and address any of your issues that may arise at the poll when you get there. So if you're at a poll and they say you can't vote, then you need to have the election protection number on your phone to call them immediately so that you can talk to someone on staff who's either a lawyer or election official who can look the rules and regulations for that state to get you to the right poll immediately, or to make a record that may be used in a lawsuit in the future. So it's very important that you just don't walk away no matter what they tell you at a poll. If you go to a poll and you see something unusual, you should call election protection. It is open every day of the week, generally from 10 to 6. On election days, it's open from 8 to 8.
That's right. And it's also a reminder that if you go to iwillvote.com, you have all the information you need in English and Spanish. And you can check the status of your ballot. You can check if you're registered to vote. You can register to vote. You can learn all about voting. It's your one-stop shop. And if you have any questions, you have all the numbers there for you to call. But we want to make sure you have all the tools that you need, because look, voting is it is a very important step. It's not the only step, but it's the important step. It's one of the most important steps. It's an on-ramp in terms of us, really being a healthy democracy, us becoming a more perfect union. It doesn't happen when other people are just at the table, and we're hoping and praying that they're going to look out for us. We've got to look out for ourselves, and part of that means voting. We also need more folks on Capitol Hill that are going to have the courage to hold folks accountable. Case in point, U.S. Senator seeking perjury investigation into Kristi Noem over her Department of Homeland Security spending. Senator Blumenthal said that he would open a perjury investigation into the ousted Homeland Security Secretary after alleging that she lied to Congress about the hidden influence of her senior advisor, Corey Lewandowski, the secret hidden influence he had over agency contracts. This is a story that is not going to go away simply because she is no longer the Secretary of Homeland Security. We know that a federal procurement records review by our friends over at The Guardian showed last year that the Department of Homeland Security awarded a $250,000 public affairs contract to America Made Media Company, a newly formed Republican political consultancy whose principals have deep professional ties to Lewandowski. We could go on and on and on between the ties to him and ties to Kristi Noem. What message should this send to members of the Trump administration who think that, if they get in any trouble, the president's just going to pardon them, that they have nothing to worry about, particularly if Republicans lose control of the House and the Senate? What message does this story send to them?
So I think it sends a strong message, but I want to roll back just a minute, because I think in this moment is a chance to invite a conversation and a clarification about what's happening with TSA right now, because I feel like that's going to contact many Americans who may be listeners to your station who are going to airports and seeing waits that are 2 to 3 hours long and thinking, oh my God, the Democrats need to just do something, which in fact is not the Democrats just need to do something, because the Democrats said they would do something. We are willing to fund this if you allow for oversight in DHS with regards to this type of thing as well. Meaning the grants and the giving of money and award of contracts, as well as ICE operations within the cities, as well as ICE operation detention facilities. So what the government, what the Democrats have said is, we are happy to fund TSA, but what we're not going to do is write a check without any oversight and ability. And that's what has led to the shutdown. In fact, the Democrats even said, you know what, we will fund TSA specifically as a line item and leave the rest of DHS closed to avoid these issues that we're having now at the airport while we have these security concerns, because we have a chosen war abroad. And this is the way that they need to do this. So within this sort of realm where we're talking about what Secretary Noem said before Congress, these things would not have happened if there were oversight, and the oversight people were actually doing their jobs in the administration. It does not absolve the White House, Stephen Miller, or anyone else in the who has a secretary from oversight with regards to what she did. So it's not just that she had a $220 million ad campaign that ran to tell people they need to leave the United States. And just in case, if you don't think that's a lot of money, apparently that's more money than it was to make a number of blockbuster movies And when we talk blockbusters, we're talking about Iron Man and all that type of stuff. Her budget, that budget is more or on par with making those type of movies without that type of return. And each one of those movies vignette centered her. So the question, and she was in all these exotic places, right in front of Mount Rushmore, here, there at the border, all these places. So the question is, who was getting paid? And that's the real answer with regards right now to UCIS, meaning we saw that they bought a detention facility in Maryland, that they paid $100 million more than what it was worth to a Russian business owner. So is it money laundering? What's the story there? We saw that the Secretary's aide bought cars, had the cars, put the ICE insignia on them, and they never have cars with ICE insignia of them. So that's $2.4 million worth of cars they cannot use. We saw that they have detention facility contracts with companies that didn't exist. And so people might not realize this, but it is not an easy thing to get a government contract, specifically for that amount. And I can assure you that there is no company that has been open 8 days that is awarded $1 million, much less $100 million contract from the United States government. It just doesn't happen that way, because generally there's so many eyes looking over something that it would not happen in that sequence. Now, with regards to the affair or non-affair or story of an affair, where there's smoke, there's fire. And allegedly within her office at DHS, people referred to Mr. Lewandowski as the chief. And he was the one doing all the directing and making a lot of decisions in the office. This is reporting that came out across all the boards. They were in these locations together without her husband, right? And so that would not be so far-fetched to believe in this administration, when also at the Department of Labor, you have a very similar issue with the Secretary of Labor and her husband being banned from the building, right? Not only her having a problem, but her husband being banned from the building for sexually assaulting some other individual. These things generally don't happen in government for a couple of reasons. Number one is you're generally there doing a job, and you're so busy that you don't have time to be having a side affair or all those type of things. You're generally trying to solve problems, do government in meetings. It just doesn't, in my experience with government, you might fall in like with someone, but these type of affairs just isn't seen that often for me in Democratic administrations. We saw some other affairs within the first Trump administration, but not this one. And so it leads me to say, once they crack open, this was the window of this $200 million worth of ads that Kristi Noem said before Congress that President knew about it, and that Stephen Miller knew about it. And then you have a Republican Senator, Mr. Kennedy, saying, wait a minute, that doesn't sound like the Republicans I know. Are you sure? And she said, yes, I'm sure, right? And then she said, I didn't know who these people were, right? When in fact she does know who these people are, or should have known who they are. How do you give someone a $100 million contract and not know who they are, right? And not know where they're located, thanks to Mr. Olsley sort of interviewing her and saying, where's this company located? What's their address, right? They don't even have a company address. The address that the company uses is a Republican strategist's home address, right? You got a $100 million contract with a company with an address of a Republican strategist. Mm-hmm. All of those things in itself are problematic, but here's the second thing, the most important thing I want to add today is you have government accounts tweeting, DHS, TSA, all of these government accounts, official accounts tweeting about the Democratic Party isn't doing X, Y, or Z. And each one of those tweets violate the Hatch Act, which basically says with general government money, you can't do anything to support your party affiliation because the people who are paying taxes might not be part of that affiliation. It's a very simple thing to understand in life. And so for every one of those tweets that come from DHS or from TSA, you should make a Hatch Act report, a complaint. It's online. It's very easy to do Hatch Act complaint. It's all electronic. All of these things show you the corruption and the greed that's happening right now and the oversight of Congress. And I say this to end it is to say, but what we've talked about in the show is the law takes longer to sort of resolve these issues. Mm-hmm. So it's going to take a while to sort of resolve everything that she did, to unwind it, to do the research, to do the repercussions. And that might be years or 6 months down the road.
In our remaining minutes with you, Alan, I want to quickly get your reaction to the story published by NPR about how Trump is using immigration policy to suppress speech. Mm-hmm. At least that's the claims in this lawsuit. There are a number of professors, adjunct professors at universities in different parts of the country who are really pulling back from their work, pulling back quick and fast. because they're worried that they may lose their H-1B visa, or they're worried that they might lose their job. A host of non-citizen academics and independent researchers who are living in a pervasive fear of immigration enforcement is having a chilling effect on independent research and advocacy. Talk to us about what you're seeing and hearing.
It's true. As an attorney, I've advised my clients with regards to making statements or doing things adverse to this administration because of the adjudication of their applications, which are always discretionary, as well as the entry to this country. So not just foreign nationals, but also Americans, people in Congress have also changed the way they do things and see procedures. You saw Vice President Vance change his whole position on war in the Middle East, right, to sort of agree with the presidency. So I don't think it's unreal to think about that you shouldn't, as a foreign national who's applying for entry from this administration, in which they have a great deal of discretion to give you that visa or not, now is not the time to have that political conversation, and you lose out on everything for you and your family. So it's a very costly way to sort of do business. But, as a lawyer, I'm about getting my client the result they want and advising them as to what they need to do to get to that result. Once they become United States citizens, you do whatever you want to do. But on the threshold of getting there, specifically now with these interviews on naturalization applications and your entry of coming back to the United States with the green card, you want to be super careful about what you're putting on your social media or anywhere else, because this government has now said they have the right to review it. And they're calling permanent resident people who've been here forever, 20 years, of saying you're just a long-term visitor. So you could be denied entry and removed to a country that you haven't lived in for years, or have an exorbitant cost to hire a lawyer to get your green card back. So what do we want to do? Do we want to have this argument with this administration? Because we know this administration is short-lived. This is 4 years that we're looking at. When your long-term goal is a green card, which for Indian nationals, Chinese nationals, you might have been working on for 13 or 14 years to get to this stage, is now the moment that you want to throw your hat down in that ring. And the answer has become no. And just to add to this immigration conversation, specifically to Black people, we have seen that the Trump administration has been stopped from ending TPS for Haitians across the board. It's a class of around 300,000 Haitians across the United States. Both a lower court and an appeals court said, no, you did this the wrong way. The Trump administration, there's a division in the circuits with regard, is taking this to the Supreme Court to try to remove 300,000 Haitians to Haiti, when on last week, Thursday, the FFA said, we're not having any commercial flights to Haiti until September. How can you justify returning Haitians, 300,000 of them, to a country in which you're saying that your own FFA says we're not doing any commercial flights until September? It doesn't make sense. So it's not about humanitarian stuff. It's about what they want to do, because at the same time, you see this administration talking to Australia and saying, oh, wait a minute, if you don't want to give these Iranian women soccer players asylum, send them to the United States and we'll give them asylum. How crazy does that sound?
It sounds very crazy, and it sounds like it's going to get even crazier, but we are thankful to have you here to help us separate the fact from the fiction, the facts from the crazy. Our thanks to Alan Orr of Orr Immigration Law. We really appreciate you being here always.
Thank you for having me.
You've been listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. More when we come forward.
Striving to make America a nation as good as its promise. This is A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
My name is Tyrone Owens, and this is my home for 23 years that burned in the fire. Me and my wife, Charlene, we had this whole yard decorated every year.
This was the house that sparkled throughout the entire neighborhood on all the holidays. It's a community that will never be the same due to the negligence of the utility company. So I am pretty upset about that.
We were nowhere near being able to rebuild with our insurance. It's going to cost $1 million to put your house back up.
I want to get back to that point where we were before the fire. I'm starting to get emotional, but I'll work through it. LA Fire Justice has been wonderful for us. They're just caring people. We have all faith in them.
Big ups to LA Fire Justice, who's given us hope to rebuild 100%.
Advertisement. Douglas Foster, 221 East Walnut Street, Suite 100, Pasadena, California, 91101 is the attorney responsible for this ad.
LA Fire Justice is proud to sponsor Conversation Live, Altadena Rising with James Farr on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are the architect of your own legacy, but you don't have to build it alone. I'm Lisanne Basquiat. a board-certified NLP expert and legacy healing strategist. I've built the Shaping Freedom platform to give you the exact tools you need to evolve. From my signature podcast and Lounging with Lisanne meditations to our intentional candles and journals. Stop living on autopilot. Visit shapingfreedom.com to access the teachings and tools you deserve for you and your family. Your evolution begins at shapingfreedom.com.
Getting around LA doesn't have to cost a lot. Metro has fares that fit every budget. 20 free rides for qualified riders through the Life Fare program. Free passes for students with GoPass and affordable options for everyone in between. Wherever you're going, Metro's got you covered. Visit metro.net/fare programs.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. These are hard times for housing in America. Too many in our community face barriers to safe housing, behavioral health care, and affirming spaces for healing, particularly those impacted by poverty and stigma or incarceration. Rooted in South LA, Ahmad supports impacted communities through housing, wellness, and leadership development. Ahmad provides culturally responsive, peer-led support from transitional housing and mental health services to leadership development and youth empowerment. They offer safe, affirming houses for youth, transgender women, and formerly incarcerated individuals. Therapy and peer support with a focus on healing trauma in Black communities. HIV prevention and care, free testing, education, and wraparound services for whole person wellness. Standing in the gap with health, housing, and hope. Reach out to Ahmad Institute at 323-569-1610. That's 323-569-1610. Or visit amaad.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
We face tragedy, but we don't fall into despair. We continue our work to build a more perfect union.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. As I mentioned at the top of the show, this Saturday, this weekend really had a chance to be a part of the thousands of people who descended upon Chicago to pay their final respects to Reverend Jesse L. Jackson Sr. It was an experience I will never forget. How do you sum up the life of a civil rights icon? How do you sum up the life, the work, the witness of someone who, as a young man, stood at the side of Martin Luther King Jr. And over time would go on to become a movement builder, would go on to become a two-time candidate for the Democratic presidential nomination, that would go on to go abroad on peace missions, successfully bringing detained Americans home, who would go on to be almost viewed as a founding father of modern South Africa because of his advocacy and activism against apartheid. The list goes on and on and on and on. And that's really what I've been reflecting on since coming home from Chicago. It's all the stories that were shared over the course of that very long service on Friday at the House of Hope. It was incredibly moving. The music was stirring. It felt like part revival in some ways, but in other ways, it felt extremely special because it was essentially a reunion beneath this forest of giants, honoring the giant among giants. You know, the celebration, it felt sacred, but it also felt very fitting of a life that bent the arc of the moral universe towards justice. And because of that, he will never be forgotten and should never be forgotten. So many beautiful things that were said, but the one thing that keeps ringing in my ear was said by my friend, my colleague, my brother, Jesse Jackson Jr., when he reminded us that his father's greatest contribution wasn't political, it was psychological. Let that sit with you for a second. Let that sit with you, the impact of the affirmation, I am somebody, and what that meant to generations, plural, of not just Black people, but people of conscience, people who had been cast aside, people who had been marginalized, people that the political elites weren't checking for. There was a time where political elites, they weren't checking for Black people as a part of coalitions the way they are today. They weren't checking for gay people the way that they're checking for gay people as a part of coalitions today, right? They weren't checking for women. And the list goes on and on and on. And that change didn't just happen by itself. It happened because of the political imagination of leaders like Reverend Jesse Jackson. And I think as we stare down the challenges that are before us, clear-eyed, I think there's no time like the present for us to summon the kind of political imagination that Reverend Jackson was able to summon. It's no time like the present for us to become the moral leaders as best we can in order to meet the moment. Those are just some of my reflections from Reverend Jackson's homegoing service. More to come. You're listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. More we come forward.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Morgan Wood with BIN News Now. Attorney General Pam Bondi says the Department of Justice has charged the 2 alleged ISIS-inspired terrorists who attempted to bomb a protest in New York City. The NYPD says the incident involved 2 IEDs at a weekend protest outside Mayor Zohran Mamdani's home. Meanwhile, the Phoenix Sun says they're